There are some moments in history that are just so powerful, so pivotal, that they echo for thousands of years. Today, we're going to deconstruct one of the most incredible final speeches ever given, a leader's last, desperate plea to his people, where a single choice was going to define the future of an entire nation. Let's dive in. All right, so this is Joshua. He's old now, nearing the end of his life. After decades of war and struggle, he has one final, urgent message for the people he led into the Promised Land. And believe me, the stakes could not be higher. So let's really set the stage for this final massive assembly. Yeah, this was way more than just some farewell tour. This was a moment of national reckoning that was going to shape generations to come. Look, Joshua had fought the good fight, right? He'd finished his race. But he knew that his own personal victory just wasn't enough. His main concern now was the future. Who was going to lead after he was gone? And even more importantly, what were the people going to follow? So what does he do? He gathers everyone, every leader, every elder, every judge from all the tribes of Israel. And the place he picks, it's not random. Not at all. He chooses a place called Shechem. See, in the ancient world, location was everything. And this place was just soaked in history. The location itself was basically part of the speech. Shechem wasn't just some random spot on the map. It was a place that spoke volumes before Joshua even opened his mouth. Shechem had this really interesting kind of dual history. On the one hand, it was a place of incredible promise. It's the first place their ancestor Abraham camped when he entered the land, and where Jacob, who was renamed Israel, also first set up camp. But it was also a place of failure, a place of shame. It's where Jacob had to bury his family's foreign idols. So it was this perfect mix of new beginnings and necessary endings, which made it the absolute perfect backdrop for this huge decision. Okay, so Joshua's got the perfect location. But this wasn't just him getting up and giving an emotional speech. No, he structures this thing like a formal, almost legally binding ceremony, following a pattern that everyone there would have instantly recognized. He actually uses the structure of what's called a suzerainty treaty. Just think of it like this. It's a formal deal between a great, powerful king, the suzerain, and a smaller, lesser king, the vassal. The deal was super simple. The big king offers protection, and in return, the smaller king promises absolute, undivided loyalty. And in this ceremony, God is the great king, and the nation of Israel is the vassal. And this is where you really see the genius in what Joshua is doing. He follows this treaty structure to a T. He starts with a preamble, identifying God and Israel. Then you have the historical prologue, which isn't just a boring history lesson, by the way. It's the evidence. It's him laying out God's faithfulness as the reason for their loyalty. Then come the stipulations, their side of the bargain. The blessings and curses spell out the sky-high stakes. And finally, with witnesses all around to make it official, he asks for ratification, a formal yes or no. This was a full-blown covenant renewal, and every single person there understood the gravity of their decision. All right, so all of this structure, all this setup, it leads us right to the main event, the moment everyone's been waiting for, the ultimate choice. Now remember, he's following that treaty format. So he doesn't just jump in and demand loyalty. First, he lays the foundation. He walks them through their shared story, how God called their ancestor Abraham, pulled them out of slavery in Egypt, guided them through the desert, and gave them victory in the very land they were standing on. It's only after he reminds them of this incredible track record that he lays out the choice, and it is a stark one. He says, look, you can serve the Lord, the God who's done all this for you, or you can go back to the idols your ancestors worshipped, or you can serve the gods of the people whose land you now live in. There is no third option here, no middle ground. And what he says next, wow, it's become one of the most famous lines in history. He puts it right to them. Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But before anyone can even answer, he makes his own personal, unshakable declaration. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He wasn't just a commander barking orders. He was leading by example. So you can imagine the scene, right? The people hear this, and they're fired up. They shout, "We will serve the Lord." But Joshua, he actually pushes back. He needs them to understand this isn't some casual, feel-good decision. No, this is an all-or-nothing commitment. He tells them, okay, if you're going to do this, you have to serve God with sincerity and truth. But what did those words really mean back then? They went so much deeper than how we use them today. Okay, this is so important to Deut The Hebrew word for sincerity, tamim, is the exact same word used to describe a sacrificial animal. It had to be perfect, blameless, without a single defect. It means giving your absolute best, holding nothing back. And the word for truth, amet, means faithful, consistent, totally trustworthy. It's actually a word used to describe God's own character. So what Joshua's really asking for is a 100% faithful, exclusive relationship. Because when it comes to this kind of loyalty, 99% is a total failure. And this is why the commitment had to be absolute, because as Joshua reminds them, God is a jealous God. Now hang on, this isn't the petty, insecure jealousy we think of. This is the fierce, protective love of a creator who isn't worried about himself, but is desperately concerned about what will happen to his people if they turn away from the very source of their life. Okay, so this next part is kind of weird. It's a little confusing. After the people shout, "Yes, we're all in, we choose the Lord," Joshua looks them in the eye and says, "You are not able to serve the Lord." It seems like a total contradiction. Why on earth would he tell them to do something he says they can't do? Here's why. He was trying to teach them something absolutely critical. He wanted them to get deep in their bones that their own willpower, their own good intentions were not going to be enough to keep this promise. They couldn't do it in their own strength. True faithfulness meant they had to rely completely on God's power to help them. And boom, just like that, Joshua's ancient warning comes crashing right into our modern world. Because the danger he was talking about wasn't really about ancient statues. It was about the timeless temptation of choosing our own idols. See, when we hear the word idol, we think of statues, right? But a modern idol isn't necessarily something you can hold. A modern idol is anything or anyone that we look to for our ultimate safety, our ultimate satisfaction, and our ultimate meaning in life. Anything that we put in God's place. And look, these can be anything. Power, pleasure, money. They can even be good things, like our career, or a spouse, or a child. The real kicker? It's that last one. An idol is any good thing that we turn into the ultimate thing, the thing we feel like we can't live without. It's what happens when we ask something good to give us what only God can. So, back at Shechem, the people get it. They hear the warning, they understand the cost, and they choose to reaffirm the covenant. They formally renewed their treaty with God, and that powerful decision created a legacy of faithfulness that lasted for an entire generation. Joshua drew a line in the sand that day. His choice created a legacy. And honestly, that same choice between serving God or the idols of our age is still on the table for every single one of us. So the real question his speech leaves hanging in the air is this: what will your legacy be?